In today's video, we're going to be grading every NFL team's coaching job from the 2023-2024 season. Before we get into that, though, I want to remind you once again, check out the new podcast on my channel, Tuesday Night Takes. Just posted our second episode yesterday, me and a friend jumping into the NFL, just weekly. Either way, before we get into this video also, I want to remind you, please hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to be doing a jersey giveaway at 1,000 subs, and I'm on my way there, so help me get there as soon as possible, and somebody will win a jersey. Either way, let's get right into this video. So here's our tier list. We have Wizardry up top, Elite, A, B, C, and Garbage, because that's pretty much all the definition you need to get. Either way, let's go by division here. We're going to start with the AFC East, and we're going to see where one of these coaches is. Robert Saleh. That's a tough one to start with, because they did go 7-10. I'm going to give him B, because they went 7-10 with Zach Wilson. They expected to have Aaron Rodgers through the year, and that didn't happen. Saleh, maybe not the best coach, but he hasn't proven to be bad, considering what he's had. So let's give him at least a little bit of benefit of the doubt, and we'll put him in B. Moving on from there, let's see. Where is McDermott? He's an interesting one as well, because they were 5-5. They fired their offensive coordinator, and then they went to, They won their last five of the last six, something like that. A really good season, and they've obviously gotten their way into the playoffs, won in the first round. I don't know about this one, though. I'm going to give him A. I was on the train that maybe he was the problem prior to them firing the OC, and clearly the OC was a big issue. Now, is McDermott still a issue? It's possible. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt as well, though, and say he might be a pretty good coach. Let's give him an A and just call it good. After that, we're going to Bill Belichick, and I'm going to give him a C, because you might say Garbage. Oh, they were what, 4-13? Well, yeah, but at the same time, what was their ceiling? What was their floor? I think he coached them to their floor. I don't think they underperformed. I think this was the floor that they had. This was the worst they could have been without being absolutely terrible. And, it is what it is. They competed, and they won some games they shouldn't have. That's all you got to do. Moving on, we've got one more in this division. That's going to be Mike McDaniel. Here he is. Obviously 11-6. Once again, not good in the playoffs. Is that Tua's fault? Is that his fault? I don't know. I'm going to give him an A. It was a fine season. Nothing much else to say. They lost a lot of key guys on defense to injuries, and that really hurt them in the playoffs long term. Lost them a few games at the end of the season potentially. They didn't beat the Titans, which was a pretty rough game. Might have cost them a playoff spot in, the 2 seed or something like that. Either way, that is what it is. We'll go to the next division. The AFC North now. That is, let's start with, if I can find one, Harbaugh. I'm going to say that's a elite coaching job. He did really good this year. The whole team did really good this year. Obviously, they lost their last game, but they played a lot of backups. They did lose to Pittsburgh, which is pretty normal. They lost both times to Pittsburgh. They always lose to Pittsburgh. They're 7-1 in 8 years, 1-7. But 13-4. The best record in the league. You gotta give them that. I'm not gonna say wizardry because, they had good players on both sides of the ball, the best defense in the league. That doesn't quantify as wizardry because you should be in the elite tier. You should be there. That's not wizardry, bud. Either way, going on, let's find, Zach Taylor, the Bengals head coach. This is an interesting one. I'm going to give him a B. He did good with what he had. They were a positive record after losing Burrow. You could argue him into A, but they didn't make the playoffs, so I'm going to give him B. That is what it is. Not a big deal there. Mike Tomlin, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say wizardry because this guy just wins every year. It doesn't make any sense at all. Ever doesn't make sense, but he wins. And not only do they win, he went 10-7 this year, which is better than the normal 9-8. And this is probably the worst team he's had with it. Mitch Trubisky is a terrible quarterback, and he coached through that. Yes, they lost those games, but he got out of it. He finally put Mason Rudolph in. Oh, well, fire Tomlin. Who to replace with who? No, stop. Oh, well, he didn't put Rudolph in early enough. Rudolph's been a backup for 5 years. There's a reason he didn't play. Let's stop acting like Rudolph is the best quarterback in the league because he's not. Either way, Kevin Stefanski, he's also going to go in wizardry because Cleveland, how did they do that? How are they? Yeah, they lost in the playoffs, which might tank them down to elite, and they lost badly to the Texans, who were maybe not even a better team than them, maybe debatably, whatever, I don't know. But still, you made the playoffs, we're 12-5, one of the better records in the league, and did it with, guy came off the couch, Joe Flacco. You did it with DTR. A lot of messy stuff this year in Cleveland, and he came through. Let's jump over to the NFC now. We're going to start in the NFC North. That is starting with, if I can find somebody, Dan Campbell. I'm going to say an elite job. Did very well. What was their record? 12-5 as well. A really good year. They were expected to be up towards the top this year. They just kind of had some hype around them, so I'm not going to put them in wizardry. But they should have been 13-4 because of the fact that they did beat the Cowboys, and they got screwed out of that. But either way, that's a topic for another day. Kevin O'Connell, what was their record? They were, 7-10. That's a tough one, man. I mean, you lose Kirk. You have to play a lot of messy quarterbacks. I'll give him a B minus, we'll say. He's going to stay at the back of B, even though whatever. He did fine, but it was hard to work with. Being an offensive guy and you lose Kirk and Justin Jefferson for most of the year, that's just hard to deal with. So I'm going to give him a B. It is what it is. After that, Matt LaFleur, where is he at? That's not him. There he is. Matt LaFleur gets an A from me. 9-8, you have Jordan Love look like a completely different quarterback after week 10. This guy, the development is insane. And, he was calling out his quarterback early in the year, and now he's talking about how good this kid is, and he didn't expect this. So, yeah, heck of a job there by Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. Definitely gets an A. Not quite elite because he's still 9-8, but it is what it is. Matt Eberflus, I'm going to give him an A as well. They did go 7-10, but the second he took over the defensive play calling, they started playing a lot better defense, and that's his side of the ball. And to me, if you're a coach in the NFL and your team is bad, the only thing you need to show to prove to me that you are a decent coach is that you can control your side of the ball, and he did. That's huge. He gets an A from me. The NFC East. This is going to be an interesting one here. We will start out with, if I can find anybody, Mike McCarthy. So, most of these guys are just going to be based off of their regular season. However, Mike McCarthy gets based off of everything because of where they've been the last few years. He did a garbage job. No, not garbage. Let's be real. He was 12-5. Good enough. It got in the playoffs, got him the 2 seed, beat the Eagles when it mattered, and whatever. They beat him at home. However, they beat everybody at home for 2 years. And then they get stomped in the playoffs by a far lesser team. Let's be real. Green Bay, I'm ecstatic they won. I think it's awesome. They're the worse team than Dallas, but Dallas didn't come to play. And this is clearly a problem in Dallas. He needs to be fired. He has to be. He didn't do good, and he's never going to do good in the playoffs because it's just not what he does, especially when you have Dak as your quarterback. It doesn't help, but it is what it is. Terrible job, honestly. We're just going to give him a C because they were 12-5. After that, who do we have next? Nick Sirianni, also going to be judged by the playoffs a bit. However, I'm not going to put all the blame on him, unlike some others. I think he deserves a B- as well. He's, once again, 11-6. They did fall apart in the end of the year, 100%. However, their offensive coordinator clearly doesn't know how to call plays. Every play for Jalen Hurts in shotgun makes no sense. You don't have any under center. You don't have any play action. What are we doing here? Also, your defense, you had to find Matt Patricia and put him on the field instead of your other defensive coordinator, and that shows there's a problem there. Yeah, Nick Sirianni needs to get control of his team. They're still 11-6. He gets a B-. I'm going to put him at the very top of C. I'll put him at the very top of C. That's it. But, it's not good, but you can't really blame him entirely. I think it's on a lot of other people as well. Jalen Hurts played worse, may turn the ball over too many times. I'm still putting him back in B. What am I talking about? It is what it is. Brian Daboll, the Giants did finish 6-11. I'm going to give him a B for that. It is what it is. You have Daniel Jones, who's not very good, as your starter. Then you have to bring in Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor's a very good backup. That's fine. Then you have to play Tommy DeVito. You win some games. Saquon's hurt, as usual. There's just a lot of moving parts here. And at least they were 6-11 and not 3-14. That's all I can give credit for there. B-, maybe a C, but I don't think it's on Daboll the reason they lost. Let's be real. Moving on from there, we have one more, and it's Ron Rivera. He's going in garbage. He's garbage. He's been garbage. I don't know how he's not been fired for the last 3 years. The riverboat is sailing away. Going back to the AFC, starting in the AFC South, the Jaguars, they are going to get a C from me. Doug Peterson, this was a fall off. They started 8-3 and ended 9-8, so major losses there. Trevor Lawrence didn't have a good year. Nothing worked here. I don't know if it was the coordinators. I'm honestly not super familiar with the Jaguars coaching staff outside of him. So, I mean, you just can't lose like that, especially when, you've taken other teams to Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl. Yeah, Nick Sirianni took a team to Super Bowl, but there's clearly issues with the offensive and defensive coordinator. That does fall on him, but either way, that's Nick Sirianni. We're done with him. Moving on. Mike Vrabel. He did an A job, in my opinion. You lose Ryan Tannehill, which may or may not be an actual loss. You get Will Levis. He plays well. And then, your defense is pretty good. While they may not have the best players on that side of the ball, but they're still making it work. 6-11. He should not have been fired. Maybe a upper B, but I'm going to give him an A. I think Vrabel's a very good coach, and I don't think their falls on this season were on him whatsoever. After that, we've got Shane Steichen down in Indianapolis. I'm giving him an A. No, I'm giving him an elite job. He did great, an absolute great job. I mean, there's nothing you can ask for this guy to do more of. The offense played well with Gardner Minshew all season. They didn't have Jonathan Taylor for a bit. He did well. Nothing else needs to be said. And finally, DeMeco Ryans, he's going straight to elite. They made the playoffs after, not being in the race for a little while there. And this is a first-year head coach. Yes, Steichen did as well, but this guy made the playoffs, let's be real. The Texans were also in a much worse spot as of a year ago right now. Like, everybody thought they were a joke, a laughingstock. CJ Stroud was not going to be a good pick at the time. And this guy's made it work. He's really driven this franchise to new heights. So I got to give him a ton of credit. And we're going to go right to the AFC West now. We're going to start with Brandon Staley. Garbage. He's gone. Not even going to talk about it. Andy Reid. Yeah, they won their division in 11-6. I'm going to give him this is tough. I'll give him a high B because they were fine. They're 11-6. They made the playoffs as a 3 seed. And yes, they had receiver issues. However, Mahomes looked very just off this season. There was a lot wrong with Mahomes himself. I don't know what it was exactly, but he didn't look like the same guy. He was definitely not nearly as dominant as before. And that's got to, why does it happen after we've seen Mahomes be so good for years and years and years? It's not like last year his receivers were elite. Juju was the best guy. Yeah, better than what they have now, but not really much better. Moving on from there, McDaniels is the Raiders. Garbage. However, Antonio Pierce, I'll go ahead and rank him as well. I'm going to give him an elite job. Antonio Pierce did great. He rallied a group of men. Aiden O'Connell was his starting quarterback, and they won quite a few games under Antonio Pierce. So I'll give them that credit for sure, not to mention the beatdown of the Chargers that got Staley fired. Sean Payton, I mean, this is a tough one. They went 8-9. I'm going to give him an A job, though, because they started, 2-7 or something like that? I'm not entirely sure, but they were 2-5, something like that. They were very bad. They won 7 games straight. That's all Sean Payton coaching right there. The defense was the side of the ball that wasn't cutting it up, and that's not his side. It's not his fault. They did recover, though. He's definitely going to be a part of that, being the head coach. The only problem I have with him is the benching of Russ, which makes no sense to me, other than the fact they want to get rid of him and not get him injured. But football-wise, not a good idea, but he gets an A at least from there. And do we have one more in this division? I don't think so. I think that's it. Final divisions are the NFC South. We'll start there. Arthur Smith, garbage job. You have Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and you use Tyler Algier? What are you doing, man? There's just too many things wrong there. He had to be fired. It was time. Dennis Allen, this is a very tough one for me because I am not a Dennis Allen fan. I think he's a very poor NFL coach, but I don't know where to put him. They did end up going 9-8, and I'm going to give him, I don't know. I'll give him a B. They're fine. I don't know if it's, the best job, but at the same time, he could have done better, I think. You have Derek Carr, who's a solid quarterback. He played decently this year. The running game wasn't there. The defense was pretty good, and that's his side of the ball, so I'll give it to him there. Frank Reich did not do good. I don't know if he deserved to be fired, though, simply because what is he supposed to work with on that team? There's not a whole lot there, and I don't know. I'm not saying he shouldn't be fired, but should he have been fired is the question. Not sure. After that, we have who is left. Todd Bowles. I'll give him an A. Not a Todd Bowles fan either. Been very slanderous to Todd Bowles' name, but he had a good year. Made the defense play well. The offense under Baker Mayfield was pretty good. You got to give him credit where it is. So there it is. Jonathan Gannon, he's going in wizardry. No, he's going in elite. Jonathan Gannon, they might have went 4-13, but that is the best 4-13 season I've ever seen. They were competitive with the worst roster I've ever seen in my life. That roster was absolutely atrocious. The defense starting the year, these guys were all XFL players, and they competed in about 90% of their games. That's all you need to know. Kyle Shanahan, he did an elite job as well. I'm not going to put him in wizardry simply because Yeah, you went 12-5. You also had a 3-game skid where you lost to some teams you definitely shouldn't have lost to. But, obviously a very good team and talent around him. So it's what it should be. Sean McVay, I'm pushing this one to wizardry because you have Matthew Stafford, you have Cooper Kupp, you have a breakout season from Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams. You have Aaron Donald on the defense, who has lost a little bit of a step, but still pretty good. And that's about it. The rest of the roster is pretty much buns. You got Byron Young, you've got Kobe Turner, a couple rookies. Fine, but not special necessarily. They might, we're still waiting to see what they might become. He did a great job. Made the playoffs, made a competitive push against the Lions. Good job in my book. And Pete Carroll. The Seahawks went 9-8. I'll put him at a B. I don't know what you expect from him. I mean, I don't think Geno's all that good. They had a good year last year, not so good this year. I don't know if it was, I don't know. They're probably just trying to get a new breath of air in the room. That's why they fired him. But either way, not a bad job in my opinion. Either way, this is my coaching list of how the jobs were done this year. They're not in order of the tiers. McDermott didn't do necessarily any better than LaFleur. LaFleur didn't do any better than Vrabel, etc., etc. It's just, those are the tiers. They're in groups, and the groups are what they are. Either way, let me know what you think down in the comments below of how good your team's coach did, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.